Hello all you dungeon delving miscreants, as always I am Cosmic and today we're going to be previewing Demon's Age, an old school top down turn based RPG in development by Big Moon Entertainment. Now Big Moon Entertainment themselves are fairly unknown, they are also known by their studio name Big Moon Studios and haven't actually previously developed and published their own full title. What they've done in the past is they've developed alongside other developers, usually doing ports for such games that are usually console ports, mind you, for such games like Lichtenstein Battle Mage, Trap Dead Lockdown. They've also done work on producing art for racing games such as WRC5, WRC3, and MotoGP 13. So Demon's Age is very much an old school role-playing game. It is turn-based, there is a dice roll system involved in the combat, so there's a good bit of old RNG, which I don't mind personally. I like a good bit of RNG, but some people find it very frustrating when they miss when the character's right next to them. I don't mind it. I think that RNG systems, if they're done well, can have a lot of fun. They can have a bit of frustration in, that's inherent in the system, but it also allows for a lot of fun and unexpected things to happen. Now, before I talk about the mechanics of the preview guild, I have to say that the game is in alpha, so it is subject to change, and everything that you see here is the alpha build and the preview build. So everything is possibly going to change, possibly not, but that is the case with games these days. Now let's talk about the game itself. Now, when I was researching this and after I played it and I wanted to research a little bit about the project, I found something really strange. Now, on the company website, on Big Moon Entertainment's website, when they talk about Demon's Age and they give you the info page, they mention a nice D&D projects such as Chaos Chronicles. Now that's really interesting because those RPG lovers out there will know that a couple of years ago a game of Chaos Chronicles was in development and it essentially broke down after BitTorrent publisher and Chaos Chronicles the company. They couldn't agree on the project any longer after a shift in management, and essentially the project was dead, it was abandoned and it was no more. However, they did release a trailer for that game and a couple of screenshots, which looked really, really promising at the time. What was really interesting to me is that when I was trying to research the game, I went onto a forum that I like to read as an RPG lover myself, which is the RPG Codex, and I actually found someone who had noticed that the Demon's Age trailer and the Chaos Chronicles trailer are very, very similar. And I'm not just talking, they have the same tone or the same aesthetic. They are almost identical, especially in certain locations. Now, as you can see here, the top left image here is Chaos Chronicles. The bottom right is Demon's Age. So that's the same exact environment, that's the same art assets, that's the same everything in there. And I found that really, really strange. And I dug up a little bit of information about Big Moon Entertainment, and I found out that they have actually had business dealings with BitTorrent, who were supposedly developing the Chaos Chronicles game. Now, since that project is dead, it then goes to, I would say, maybe logical conclusion, that Big Moon Entertainment have bought the assets from what was Chaos Chronicles, and they have bought essentially the system, the coding, the build, etc., everything that was to do with that project, and they have taken it, built upon it, and transformed it into Demon's Age. And you may be saying, well, Cosmic, that's all well and good, but that was a load of pointless information. But I thought it was interesting, and there's many people out there who would be interested to know, especially those who were very interested in Chaos Chronicles and fans of Chaos Chronicles should be aware that this is probably the same game with different names, so to speak. But enough rambling and enough digressing, let's get back on point. Let's talk about the game itself. Now, the game is set in the land of Morrigan, which thousands of years ago was essentially overrun by demons after a demon invasion. The demons got beaten back and they set up some sort of defense system, which included towers, and those towers were guarded by 100 soldiers. All the soldiers died over age and they were never replaced, and essentially one of the greater cataclysmic events of the world was then forgotten in time and no one remembers it. And the game starts as you choose a character on a prisoner ship. Now, you can choose 3 races in the preview build: humans, elves, and dwarfs. And each one has a number of classes, including wizard, fighter, ranger, etc., etc. All very classic, cliche RPG goodness for fans who like that kind of thing, and I am one of them. Depending on the character of your choice, you have your own backstory, you have your own class, and you have your own stats and various statistics that go with your class and your character, as well as your racial build. So as this penal ship is travelling along, it hits a giant storm, and the ship gets wrecked on the coast of Morrigan, where you are the only survivor from that ship. From there, you try and go win your freedom in the land of Morrigan by helping the random people against the demon invasion, so to speak, and the story progresses henceforth. The story itself is, as you can well tell, a very, very classic RPG, cliche, tropey goodness. And that's okay. I have no problem with that as long as it is delivered well, and as long as it has a nice tone and atmosphere to the game. Then I don't mind, the same old thing, because there's a time and a place for the same old thing. There's a time for innovation and doing things differently, and there is also a space set apart for games who like to go old school, and that's fine by me. What I do like about the game is that the game, according to the preview build, is going to be fully voiced. The voice acting is of decent quality, I have to say. There's a couple in there that you think, oh, that's not quite right, or that doesn't sound right, but for the most part, the voice acting is fairly good, and it does add a nice little atmosphere to the game. I think overall, aesthetically, the game looks great. I have no real problems with it. I think that the textures do suffer if you zoom in a little bit, but I think for the most part, as particularly a lot of the background areas that you'll see, they do look great. And like I say, this is an alpha build, so this hopefully will only get better graphically. This goes to show how much of an alpha build it is, because the options menu is basically non-existent at this point. The one thing that does worry me, however, is for PC users especially, is because this game is coming to consoles too, and at the moment they only have the console UI built into it. You can use keyboard and mouse, and it works fairly well without actually having the prompts to know what to do, but a bit of trial and error, and I got there eventually. One of the biggest worries I do have with the fact that it is getting ported to consoles is that they may hold back the graphical fidelity for the PC version, and I really hope they don't do that. I hope that they really push to produce a really stellar looking game visually for the PC users, especially because this game, with what's going on in any one given scene and the world itself, and considering that you have loading screens for every single area, there is no reason why this game should not look spectacular, something along the lines of Pillars of Eternity. There's no reason for it, and there's technically no excuse at this point in this time in 2016 for a game like this. There's technically no excuse for a game to look bad of this genre. In terms of mechanics, the game works fairly simple. You run around, and as you go on, you accrue followers and you can hire people. And the interesting thing about that is that you can, not only can you hire people, but people will have their own personalities, their own agendas. So some will be really loyal to you, some will love you, some will betray you, and it all depends on your choices, that kind of thing. You have an equipment item system that is very traditional. If you've played something like Baldur's Gate before, you are definitely going to be right at home here. So as you're going through the game, you can pick up various items and equipment, all of which have various stats and different unique properties. When you get into combat, the thing I really like about Demon's Age is that there's no loading screen between combat and the area that you're in. As soon as you face an enemy and get within range of an enemy to see you and attack you, then a grid appears on the ground and you're able to jump right into the turn-based combat there. The turn-based combat itself works very, very well. It's a very traditional turn-based RNG system. I quite like it. It's a lot of fun. It's very easy to use. The thing, I think, the biggest issue about the combat currently is that there is a severe lack of melee focused abilities. Wizards have a ton, and magic users have a ton of abilities to use and various spells to use, all of which, by the way, seem currently underpowered in the preview build thus far. But melee characters have next to zero abilities apart from a standard melee attack, and they have obviously increased health and armor because they are able to use different armor and weapon proficiencies. But other than that, there is a severe lack of abilities focusing around offensive melee attacking, which seems really odd, and I hope that they really put some in at the moment, because from what I'm seeing at the moment, it just seems like you have your melee attackers at the front to deal with the brunt of the damage, who can only really use standard regular attacks, and then you're supposed to use your magic users at the back to deal the majority of the damage. However, the problem is that my standard melee attack on my warrior character does more damage than a wide range of spells from my mage, so it seems a little bit off balance there, and I think that the ability system does certainly need a rework. Overall, all that being said, I do think that Demon's Age does have potential thus far. It is still early alpha, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how the game progresses. I really hope that they really infuse something interesting into the combat with more abilities and maybe some few unique mechanics, very similar to what maybe Divinity Original Sin has in terms of, the AoE abilities and the different terrains, etc, etc. I think that could be a hell of a lot of fun in this game. I think the aesthetic is really nice. I really like a lot of the backdrops. I think they all look great. The story, while being a little bit tropey and cliche, is written fairly well, and the voice acting adds a nice touch. The music's all well and good so far. So I think it certainly does have potential to be a relatively successful old school RPG. I think it just needs a little bit more TLC in some areas, and I think it needs some additions, content additions in others, and then overall we'll see how it comes out. And that is my preview of Demon's Age. Thank you so much for watching and listening. As always, do like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you like the video, and I will see you next time.